few minutes.
Okay, wait, I have a pair of scissors here. Interesting. A funny thing, you know, I can cut with any kind of scissors, but these are the ideal scissors for cutting silhouettes. Now, a lot of people, even seamstresses and people who use scissors, and women and men and barbers and surgeons and everything, some people never learn to use a pair of scissors for the simple reason that the scissors are, the screw that they fasten them together is fairly tight. Anybody who uses scissors, the way to test a pair of scissors is to hold them up like that.
It's very loose.
Free swinging, free swinging.
Yeah.
So a good barber will test his scissors that way and oil them to make sure that that happens. Now, see, it happens either way. Now, why is that? Well, it's like using there's a way to use a gouge, a way to use a chisel, a way to use a screwdriver. Because that's why, when the fingers go in there, you can get any kind of a tension on the two blades you like by pushing with the thumb or pulling with the finger. In other words, you manipulate. You can bring the blades tight together for fine cutting, and you can make it loose by relaxing. So, in other words, it's the way you handle the scissors.
So each of these has its own tension, and you have much more control of the scissors.
Yes, and another thing, the average person, they used to have scissor grinders, used to go around with a cart when I was a boy, and they'd sharpen knives and forks, and not forks, but knives, kitchen knives, and all kinds of knives, and scissors. But they had no idea how to sharpen scissors, because they'd put the scissor on, they'd open the scissor like that and put it on a stone, and then they'd do the other side. To properly sharpen a pair of scissors, you must take the scissors apart. They have to be taken apart, because when you cut with scissors, the part that wears is the inside of the blade.
Right.
So when you cut like this, the part that gets dull is the inside. So you have to take the scissors apart and flatten them out from the inside. Each blade, flatten them. Then you put the bevel on. So in other words, there are two operations. They have to be taken apart first.
I see.
And so if a person says, oh yes, I'll sharpen them, I'll say, well, this screw is pretty bad. You'll have to take the screw out. I don't take the screw out when I sharpen scissors. You know, they don't know how to sharpen scissors.
They don't know how to do it.
But surgeons, good surgeons and good barbers are very particular where they get their scissors sharpened. A lot of people say, I'd like to buy a left-handed pair of scissors, and it's like a left-handed monkey wrench. There's no such thing as a left-handed monkey wrench, but there are certainly left and right-handed scissors, because you can use scissors here, but you try to cut with the left hand is a totally different thing.
Totally different feeling?
Totally different entirely. They can't work properly with the left hand if you have a right-handed pair of scissors. Because you see, this blade here, this blade is pushed with the thumb. That brings them close together. But when you push here, if you push with this thumb, the blades are separate. They don't cut. So you got to pull with the thumb, and it's very awkward to cut that way.
Oh, I see. So
left and right
the
hand.
blades have a wider space between them if you try to cut with the wrong hand.
Do it. So if you're a left-handed person and work with your left hand, you always buy a left-handed pair of scissors. People laugh when they say, what do you mean a left-handed? It's true, but a lot of people don't know that. Because you can cut with the left hand with a pair of scissors, but you don't have that comfortable feeling you do this way, because it's a natural feeling, whereas this way, you've got to pull with your thumb, and you can't do it equally well. Anyway, that little discourse, I don't know whether there's any valuable information in that or not.
And the paper you use a specific
Well, I use
kind
gum
of
paper. See, of course, when you're cutting silhouettes professionally, you can't stop and use mucilage and a brush and everything. It takes up too much time. In other words, when I was very efficient at cutting silhouettes, you see this paper's black on the inside and gummed on this side. Now, you could cut with black on both sides, but on bad light, the shadow cast, you lose the form. But with the white or the cream color, you can see the outline, see what you're doing. But if I folded it that way, the shadows cast, you can't get fine detail. So you fold it this way. Not only that, but that makes two pictures at once, makes two silhouettes at once. And during the war, when they had bazaars, like to raise money for the cause, in those days, Italy and Russia were on our side, the First World War. And they used to have these bazaars in New York. And I used to cut these silhouettes for a dollar each. I'd give the bazaar 50%, and I'd keep 50%. And sometimes people would say, could I get a dozen? Could I get I only make 2 silhouettes at a time, but they say, could I get a dozen? Well, you can't copy your own silhouette, because the copy is like a copy. It's never as good as the original. So I used to put 6 pieces like this together, and they're pretty thick. And I had a powerful pair of scissors, and I'd cut 12 at once. And that's very difficult because the papers have to be held right together, because if one or two of them slip, there'll be a big difference in some of the copies. Well, the original copy that you're cutting here will be true, but some of the others slip and they'll be distorted, you see. Okay. See, I would have 6 silhouettes finished by this time. When in the old days, what I'm not, I'm just. Well, anyway, now I used to say in the old days, I'd say lick 'em and stick 'em. Not a very polite thing to do, but here, I'll stick it on and show you. That's looking one way, young man.
My gosh.
And looking the other way, that's walking east to west, so this is the other way. So it makes, when I have this one,
yes.
So here he is looking at himself, see?
Okay, can we...
Oh, I'll tell you an interesting thing. Let me tell you an interesting thing while I'm sitting here.
Let me just say something, Professor.
What?
I've never paid much attention to my silhouette, but this is spooky because I see myself right in that silhouette. That's
no,
great.
It's not. It's very mediocre, but I say it gives an idea of what the art is.
Is something funny about this, Professor?
Well, this is the part, this is the outside. This is the part I throw away. Now, years ago in Cuba, one time, somebody, somebody changed a large bill, and in the change, I got a $20 gold piece. Now, a $20 gold piece is about the size of a quarter, a $half. And when I was counting my money later, I found the gold piece was missing. And I couldn't figure out what I'd done with it. So I thought I must have given it in change, given the $20 gold piece instead of a quarter to somebody. So then I suddenly thought, oh, I remember this policeman. He changed some money. And so I looked on the floor for the scraps, and I found the outside part of the policeman I'd cut. He had a hat on and everything. And I thought, just for fun, I'm going to find out. So I went over to the police station, and I showed this to the chief of police back there, whoever he was. He said, oh, Senor Gonzalez, muy bonito, you know, he's very good, muy bonito. Yeah. So I said, is he here? He said, I called him. He said, Senor Gonzalez, or whatever his name was. And he came out, he had his jacket off, and I told him, he spoke a little English. I said, remember, I cut your silhouette? Oh, yeah, muchas gracias, muchas gracias. I said, you didn't by any chance, I gave you a $20 gold piece by mistake. And he said, if you did, I must have it here. And he reached in his pocket and pulled out a handful of change, and there was a $20 gold piece nestling among a lot of change. And I thought, well, that's funny, tracing, by this clipping, I traced the $20 gold piece. That actually happened in Cuba in 1921. That's a long time ago.
That's great.
But anyway, I used to cut these in 45 seconds, but now I probably take a couple of minutes, you know. But
okay,
that's
Professor.
the story.
Thank you.
Briefly.